Hello and welcome to episode 4 of USC Trojans on Fan Nation. I'm your host, Jacob Erlbaum, joined by my co-host, Jacob Hare. And today, coming off a loss against Utah, USC's first loss of the season, a big one, a devastating loss for this team and this program. Hare, what do you have to say? What are your thoughts?
First thing I want to say is I still wore my USC shirt. I'm still proud of the team. This is year one of the Lincoln Riley era. A lot of people had this team losing 4 games, and a lot of people didn't even pick this team to win the Pac-12. So, it's pretty impressive that we're still tied for first with UCLA. Look, we don't have the tiebreaker with Utah anymore, but there's a long way to go. College football playoffs were a little crazy from the start. You were really putting Southern Cal in conversation with teams such as Alabama, Georgia, this year Tennessee, Clemson, Ohio State. The offense is there, but the defense is miles away. I've said this in many episodes on the show and the few that we've done. You can rebuild one side of the ball with the transfer portal in one offseason. They did it with the offense last year. Defense is obviously the main priority this season. You asked about the loss. Look, it's a heartbreaking loss. You could have said so many things. Oh, if they made this play. Oh, if this flag wasn't called. But it didn't happen. They still lost the game. There's no one really to point fingers at. Really just there were a lot of mistakes all around throughout the whole team. They had 11 penalties. They clearly lost a penalty game. Look, they didn't really get Travis Dye involved that much. They really should have ran the ball more. Caleb had that fantastic 55-yard run to start the game. I don't know why they weren't using his legs more in the game. They were throwing it with him. He still had 5 touchdown passes, and he's Caleb Williams. But look, there's a lot of things that we saw with this team. When they're going to play a better team than the teams they played in the previous weeks, things are going to get exposed. And we got exposed that our defense isn't that good. I hate to say it.
Yeah, and I want to talk about 2 points you made. The first is the defense. And I feel like these past 2 episodes, 3 episodes, all we've been talking about is, oh, can the defense do this? Will the defense be good enough? And we learned the defense is not good enough right now, and it showed against Utah, giving up 43 points and ultimately losing the game. The second point that I want to hit on is how you talked about other teams like Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee, and how Tennessee's win is a devastating blow for USC because now when it comes to college football playoff time, say USC, this is their only loss, they go on to win the Pac-12, and they're in contention for the college football playoff. Should Tennessee lose to Georgia and have that be their only loss, and then Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, you're going to have 3 one-loss teams in the SEC that will all get in over USC winning the Pac-12. So I think when it comes down to it, this Tennessee loss could prove to be a huge blow to USC when it comes time for the college football playoff. I know it's a long ways away. We have many weeks to go, but this loss and the Tennessee win combined on the same week is huge for the Trojans.
You touched on it with the most certainty that I could have said it with. 3 one-loss SEC teams over this little Pac-12 school that's best win could have been against Utah, but they lost to Utah. So their best win is going to be against UCLA, saying that they went out. Look, the SEC is the power conference of college football. It's where all the best players go. It's where all the best coaches coach. And the Pac-12, look, USC made the switch. This is why they're going to the Big Ten, because in a few years when they're playing teams like Wisconsin, Ohio State, Penn State, these wins are going to be quality wins, but it's just hard right now. And it's year one of the Lincoln Riley era. So I'm not too concerned. I'm still happy with the way the season is playing out because I didn't think they were going to be this good start, to be honest with you. I was very concerned about the defense. I don't know how well the offense would click in year one. Caleb hadn't played with any of these receivers besides Mario because of their chemistry at Oklahoma. But you talked about Tennessee. That's a team that rebuilt itself in basically one offseason. They were a good team the past couple of years, and they were touching the surface, but they have Hooker. He's a phenomenal quarterback, and their defense, they really rebuilt it through the transfer portal and recruits. So, just a telling sign of what USC can be next season.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And it's not to say USC, they did a ton of building this year. They are still a much better football team than they were last year, and that's unquestionable. The offense is incredible, one of the best offenses in college football. But as it showed, the defense is still not quite there. And it's probably a team that isn't ready to make the college football playoff. And we learned that this week. College football playoff teams, they go and they win those games. Teams like Georgia, teams like Ohio State, teams like Alabama, they go and they win those games. And I think we saw USC, they weren't ready. And could they have won that game? Absolutely. For a while, it looked like they were going to win that game. But even if USC had won that game 42-35, even like 49-42, some high scoring game like that, there would still be a lot of questions coming out of it about the defense and them giving up that many points. At the end of the day, they gave up that many points and they lost. If they won, completely different story. College football playoff still well on the table. Now the next talk about is going to be, can USC even come out and win the Pac-12? Are they better than UCLA? All the questions are rising. And I'm telling you, a team like UCLA, they see USC lost and they get fired up even more. They feel like this Pac-12 is theirs to win, or theirs to lose. I apologize. And the loss is pretty devastating for the Trojans. A huge impact on this team's season. And you can't be disappointed. Even if USC goes and say they lose to UCLA and they win 10 games and they go 10-2, it's still a good season considering what they were last year and how much they've improved. And also for this USC team, this is a team that's going to be really good next year too. Caleb Williams is not going anywhere. This defense can certainly improve. You talked about the transfer portal, recruits, head coach Lincoln Riley, just his first year, a second year with this system. This is a team that could be a lot better next year, and that's something that USC fans can look forward to. And this season is still not lost. USC can still go and win 11 games, playing a great bowl game, and maybe if the stars align, they can sneak into the college football playoff. But for now, USC's focus has to be on winning their next game, getting back on track, getting the wheels rolling again. And yeah.
I mean, you talked about it. Caleb's not going anywhere. And if I'm a transfer and I see USC probably is going to have a 10 or 11 win season, I see a team that just had a season that double-digit wins. I'm going to play in Southern California. I mean, we had last week Lendell White on the show, and he was talking about it. What's better than Hollywood? I mean, Lincoln Riley is really building this program. He was a home run hire. I mean, there was no one better they could have hired for this job. And his play calling this season has been sensational. And look, the defense was flat out horrendous last year. It's solid this year. Like, it's solid. This is a defense that has potential to be great next year if they can get the right pieces. I mean, that's a far stretch considering what they are right now. But if they can get the right pieces and they can make sure that they can get some guys to come back for an extra year, I think we're talking about maybe one of the best defenses in the Pac-12.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I want to move on to another topic here, and that's about USC's next game against Arizona, a bye week this week. I think that if you're USC, this is pretty upsetting that you lose this game, a devastating loss on the road, a huge blow to your season, and now you have to wait 2 weeks to play your next game. I know I've played sports, you've played sports. When you lose a game, you see it in the pros all the time. All they talk about is wanting to get it back and have the chance to win their next game and just forget about this one, move on to the next one. And for USC, having to wait 2 weeks to do that, it sucks for them. But at the end of the day, you have to look forward to having Arizona. You can't worry about this game. You got to move on. You got to focus on going 1-0. Arizona is a team that you definitely should beat. One of the bottom teams in the Pac-12. And for USC, it could definitely be a game to help them get back on track. But it's 2 weeks away from that loss on Saturday. So that's the part that stinks for them. They have to wait a little longer to get their chance to get back in the win column.
I mean, you talked about how you hate losing. I mean, we all hate losing. And I love to see after the game, quarterback Caleb Williams, he was very emotional. I mean, he was even in tears walking out of the locker room and even sitting at the press conference with Lincoln Riley. I mean, that's something that you just want to see from your leader. He really cares deeply about the team. He's gotten involved in so many ways. I mean, he was Superman on Saturday night. He couldn't get the job done, but I hate giving player comparisons because everyone is their own player. But I think he's the closest thing to Patrick Mahomes that we've seen in college football in a long time. I mean, the play is never dead when the ball is in his hands, and that's something special. So, look, I mean, this is the best quarterback USC has had maybe since Matt Leinart. So, look, there's so much to look forward to. I know you want to talk about the Arizona game, but we're going to roll over Arizona. I don't care about Arizona. We're going to win. We overlook them, whatever. Their defense allowed 49 points the other week to Cal. I mean, Cal just lost to Colorado. How hard can it be? Just run the ball. Lincoln, he knows what he's doing. He's been there. He knows how to come off the loss. So I think they're going to steamroll Arizona. But the biggest thing they really, really need to look forward to is the back half of their schedule when they got Notre Dame and UCLA. Look, Notre Dame's not that good this year, but still their rival. I mean, every rivalry game, you feel the juice. You just feel the adrenaline coming up. Both teams are going to be riled up. Notre Dame has nothing to lose when they go out and play them. I mean, they know how much they hate USC and how much we hate them. So the back half of the schedule is what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, and I think obviously the back half of the schedule looms large, and it has started to loom even larger these past few weeks with UCLA stepping up and now ranked ninth in the country, top 10. I mean, this is a UCLA team that has looked really good and is probably the favorite in the Pac-12 right now, and also Notre Dame. But I think if you're USC, it's so easy to look at that last part of the schedule. And I know the teams that they have coming up, like Arizona, like Cal, they're not very good, and it's easy to overlook them. But the last thing you want to have happen is you overlook a team like Arizona, like Cal, and then you end up losing to one of them. And then when it comes down to playing UCLA or Notre Dame, you drop one of those games, you end up with 3 losses. That's going to hurt the bowl game you play in, and that really, really puts a bad look on the entire season because one more loss. I think if you're USC, another loss is just like it's a down year for you because I know these players, these coaches, the fan base. After the start that they got off to, like college football playoff is like not the expectation, but like it was a very real possibility. Like they wanted this, like they saw it was well within reach, and now it's sort of like I don't know, like we'll see. It's not. It's not. I don't want to say very unlikely now, but it's certainly not likely. It's going to take a lot to happen, and I think these players know it. They have to be disappointed, and you just have to hope that they continue to play good football. They continue to play hard. They don't take this loss as like, well, we just blew the whole season. Like we don't care anymore. And obviously, that's not going to be the case where you have players, especially at this level, that just don't care. But you have to hope that they don't start overlooking opponents and they don't give up and that they say, you know what, let's go get the next win. Let's get the win after that. And let's see what happens. Maybe Tennessee, maybe Alabama, maybe one of those teams will drop another game. Maybe Clemson won't win the ACC. Maybe they'll fall off and lose a game down the stretch, and USC will have a chance to possibly jump back into the college football playoff conversation.
Hey, I mean, I know a team that Clemson plays this weekend. You have some ties to Syracuse Orange. So we're Syracuse fans this weekend.
Yeah, I'm coming from Syracuse, New York. It would be huge if the Orange can get the W on the road at Clemson. It would be incredible, but we'll see. I mean, if you're a USC fan, I wouldn't be banking on a Syracuse win this week. Maybe look for Clemson to drop to a different opponent down the stretch. But hey, you never know. Syracuse playing good football, also undefeated. Battle of 2 undefeateds on Saturday. We'll see what happens.
Run, Sean Tucker, run.
I hope so.
I mean, obviously they lost the game, USC, but one of the biggest things from the game is that Jordan Addison is hurt. We don't know the extent of his injury. I mean, this is something that could really, really hurt their offense on the stretch. But we've talked about it in previous weeks. The wide receiver room is so deep. They have so many playmakers. I mean, you saw when Jordan got hurt, Mario Williams really stepped up. He had a 100-plus receiving yard game. Brennan Rice is a guy that's going to need to step up. Taj Washington. You saw Michael Jackson catch a touchdown at the end of the game. They have weapons on the offense, but losing Addison, I mean, he is the center chess piece of this offense. So losing him would really, really derail the offense, in my opinion.
Yeah, losing Addison hurts, especially with what him and Caleb had going. They were so good together over these past 6 weeks. And I think you look at it now and it's like, all right, like next man up for USC. And we don't know what's going to happen with Addison. Hopefully he's not out too long as we wait an update. But for now, all you have to do is call the next man. And we've talked about the depth of this wide receiver room, as you said. And if you're a USC fan, you should still be confident in this offense's ability. They have plenty of weapons around Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams is a great quarterback. He can make his wide receivers great. While it helps to have a star like Jordan Addison, when your quarterback is that good, it'll matter a bit. But at the end of the day, Williams will be just fine. And I think this offense will be just fine without Addison. Or hopefully Addison's injury isn't too bad and he can come back sooner rather than later.
I mean, you touched on the Caleb Williams point. Great quarterbacks can lift their wide receivers up to become elite. And that's just what a star does for his team. So I definitely agree. Look, it's going to hurt. I don't know the extent of Addison's injury, but didn't look too good. So I'm going to assume I'm not a doctor, but I'm going to assume that it's going to be a while. I mean, hopefully not. It would be really, really unfortunate for the season, but we'll have to wait and see. But just a scenario in case that does happen. But hopefully.
And I think with Addison, should it not be such a major injury? Should it be maybe a week-to-week thing? Having this bye week could really help him because obviously it's an extra week off, an extra week to heal. So hopefully if that's the case, hopefully this bye week gives him the extra time that he needs to be back on the field against Arizona. And if he's not back on the field against Arizona, look for guys like Williams, Washington to step up and make plays for Caleb Williams in this offense to get back on track. And I don't even just think about the offense getting back on track. Like they scored 42 points the other night. They just have to keep rolling, keep doing what they've been doing. I think it's just the defense and sort of the team overall coming off a loss. Everyone sort of feels like the team as a whole has to get back on track. I know the offense definitely did their part on Saturday, but they still have to be feeling like they didn't do enough because at the end of the day, they lost the game. And you know that those guys, they lost 43-42. They wanted to score 49. They wanted to score 56, and they feel like they didn't get that done for their teams. So at the end of the day, hopefully Addison's okay, and hopefully this offense can continue to roll without him.
Well, the biggest thing in the Arizona game for me would definitely be turnovers. I mean, USC's defense, his calling card was getting turnovers. They lived and died by getting turnovers and winning off getting turnovers. And they only got one turnover in the Utah game, so clearly it didn't work. So they really need to get back to that path of forcing turnovers. They were forcing fumbles, getting interceptions, and they didn't have any sacks in the game. They weren't getting the rising. And they couldn't tackle. There were a lot of mishaps that were going on defense that need to be worked out over the bye week. I feel like Arizona's a get-right game. I feel like get-right games in sports are crucial because those are games where you can go out, fix without having to worry really, fix what went wrong in the previous game and what caused that loss. So tackling and turnovers are the two biggest things that they need to focus on this week.
Yep, and this get-right game, it comes at a good time, obviously. It comes right after a loss, but also right before a stretch of their schedule, the end of their schedule, these last few games here, and obviously some tough opponents coming up to end the year in UCLA and Notre Dame. This get-right game hopefully gets the team as a whole back to where it was the first few weeks of the season. And hopefully for the Trojans, they can get back on track and roll through Arizona. But for us, no game this week. It's a bye week, so nothing. We'll look forward to Arizona next week. Next Tuesday, the episode will be out. But for now, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. Go Trojans, and
Right on.
looking forward to talking about Arizona USC next week.